Hello everyone and welcome back to the ICW YouTube channel. My name is RateWrestle and today as usual is RateWrestle Reviews. So we've got three shows for you today. One from ICW Insane 8, which is a deathmatch tournament. Then we've got New Japan Music City Mayhem, which happened a couple of weeks back. And then we've got the G1 Climax Day 13, which only happened yesterday. So this is the first time I've watched the G1 this year because not many matches have been highly rated, and obviously if I try and watch the whole of G1 I ain't going to be able to watch something like ICW Insane 8, so I try and give everywhere a chance. So just to go straight away, there will be spoilers in this because especially with a tournament, if I'm going to discuss every match, it is what it is. So we kicked off with Drake Daniels, who I hadn't seen before, and Joey Avalon. It started with a jump start. Daniel was in control for a lot of this with a few suplexes. Then he hit a low blow at that point. Avalon had the package in. He hit a package pole driver. And then out of nowhere, the ref kind of DQs it because it becomes a bit of a mess. So Drake Daniels thinks he's retained the title. He's running off. He's happy that he's retained the title because Joey Avalon's lost because of a DQ. But the ref decides to restart the match. But this ends up with Drake Daniels picking up the win with the F5. I rated at 2.5 stars. It was a good kickoff. It was an average kind of match, but it was a good kickoff towards the start of the show. This was followed by the first match of the deathmatch tournament. Eric Dillinger, who I haven't seen before but was very good for this tournament, and Mickey Knuckles, who she's always fun to see Mickey Knuckles because she's just a bit of a brute. You may know her as Moose from Impact, not that Moose. She was around in TNA, but yeah, she's fun to watch. So Knuckles is a complete beast, as I said at this point. They were blasting each other with light tubes. Both were busted open from the start. There was an oven mitt which was full of, I believe, tacks. The oven mitt had some tacks on it. There was a barbed wire massive teddy in the corner, which was fun to use at that point. Eric Dillinger tried to get Mickey Knuckles through the door twice, or they both tried to get each other through a door twice, but it was one of them thick doors that it was never going to go through, so it kind of lost a bit of a momentum in the match. They hit a blockbuster, and I think Dillinger picked up the win with a cross face with some barbed wire, and Mickey Knuckles passed out. But at that 2 3/4, it was a good start to the tournament. I did really enjoy it. Then it was Orange Voigt, who I'm a massive fan of. He's always fun to see in these death matches, and he's just a pretty insane versus the Carver. I haven't seen the Carver before, but he's got kind of like your Leatherface kind of gimmick. He massive guy, looks like he just could beat anyone up. So the table finally broke at this point, like they're putting through the tables. There was light tube smashes everywhere. Carver is proper unique, as I said, with his gimmick. There was an awkward looking stomp from Carver and Voigt, but I think it's because the chair was a bit high to do the stomp. And Voigt picked up the win with the assault driver through a light tube table. And once again, I rate that 2 3/4. Did enjoy it. And both guys were very good in it. This was followed up by Remington Raw, not seen him before, and Satu Jin, who I think I saw in POR in a match with Akira and a few others. Remington Raw's got a machete, why not? Then there was an Insane 8 Scepter, so there was a few unique weapons in this. Both were busted. Glass table, so basically Remington Raw had a glass table lid, like a glass at the top of the table, which he threw, smashed all over him. Remington Raw was I think it was Satu Jin. He came out with like a massive, it looked like a shaving blade, but it was like massive. So that was a bit grim. And Remington Raw picked up the win with a giant splash. I rate that 3 stars. Very enjoyable, very good. Akira versus Neil Diamond Cutter. So Neil Diamond Cutter is like a staple of the ICW deathmatch scene, and Akira's just all over the shop. He's everywhere you want to see. The ring was full of bottle caps. There was a Masada special with the skewers. Akira whacked on like a I can't remember whether gusset plate shin guard, was kicking with that. It was proper brutal at this point, and then I think Akira picked up the win with, I believe, a move he calls the death penalty. He picked up the win. I rated that 3 stars, so Neil Diamond Cutter couldn't retain his tournament. This was followed by Vite versus Remington Raw in the semi-final. Light tubes everywhere, as you expected. Absolutely brutal. There was a barbed wire TV, and there was a tube. It ended with like a tube swing suplex. I rated 2 3/4. Not as good as the last 2 matches previous, but it was still a fun match, and obviously you're expecting it to kind of, in the semi-finals, to not be as spectacular as the final, because otherwise you're just getting to the point where they're just going to stab each other just to get the reaction. Dillinger versus Akira followed this. There was light tube bundles for days in this match. They were going through these. Akira was busted like absolutely everywhere. Both guys were going for it, and then Eric Dillinger picked up the win with just a roll-up, caught Akira off guard to get into the final. And then the final, Eric Dillinger versus Orin Vite. As you can see, it went 20 minutes, and it was 20 minutes of just pure carnage. It just looked like hell. There was barbed wire, tables, scaffold. They were hitting each other with attack bats. Dillinger was a complete mess, like busted open completely. Orange Vite landed in the barbed wire like trampoline, which looked grim. There was a scaffold splash. The referee was just passing them tubes to whack each other at this point. He just didn't care. And then Dillinger actually won again with a roll-up. I rated 4 stars. It was an incredible match. Definitely check it out when you can. Like, you should watch it out on Fight TV if you can. Both guys had a hell of a match. Yeah, that was the end of the Insane 8. Like, definitely check that out. Any other deathmatch tournaments you want me to watch, just comment down below or hit me up on Twitter. So we'll follow this up with New Japan's Music City Mayhem. So watch this because it was highly rated, the John Moxley and El Desperado match. But there was a few good matches on there as well. So you started with Fred Yehai, Shota Umino, and Yuya Uemura versus Kevin Knight, Ren Nuri, and the DKC. This is pretty much like a Young Boys match with the essence of having Yehai and Shota in the match as well. It was technical at the start. Yehai got a hot tag and was just blasting everyone. The big part of this match was the Shota versus Ren spot, which they kind of made a massive like highlight of the match. It was very, very good. It ended with Shota picking up the win with the Death Rider. Rated 2 3/4. It was a good start to the event. This was followed by Romero versus Richards for the MLW National Openweight title. It started with chain wrestling. Davey was in control. He was battering Romero's leg at this point. There was kicks, and Rocky was trying to fire up from these kicks. Then Rocky was working on the arm of Richards. There was a cut off. Romero's getting his kind of like his fire, and then Romero got cut off with a dragon screw in the ropes via Davey Richards. He kicked out of a brain buster, which then swapped into the ankle lock, which Davey Richards got him in, and then eventually Davey Richards kind of overwhelmed him and got the win. Rate that 3 stars. Good match. Rozia versus Big Damo was quite an awkward contest. Damo was full in control for the whole of this matchup, basically battering Rozia, who's Darren Young from NXT, if you haven't checked him out yet. Then Russ got into control because he kind of choked Damo with the cable, like, do you know, the television cables, choked him with that. He started trying to hit him with these like clothesline where he hit him with that side and that side standing next to him. They were proper weak though, they looked quite awkward. And then it was just kind of get very slow, and then he picked up the win with a power slam. I rated 2.5. It was quite average, but it just wasn't what I wanted it to be. This was followed by a match which I was looking forward to, which was Haruma Takahashi versus Blake Christian. Blake's had been on a roll since leaving NXT, and Takahashi's been on a roll since being in New Japan. Quick start, both going for it. A few dives from Christian. Haruma was in control, which you'd expect because he's the more of the veteran out of the two. He hit an outside suplex. Both are so good though. Like both have like the essence. Blake was busted open, but this was because of his match with John Moxley at GCW. So it was just kind of like he was bound to bleed. It started getting back and forth at that point. The clothesline bat flip looked incredible from Christian. They both had like cool looking pins at this point, but I think Takahashi picked it up with the time bomb, if I believe. Rated that 3 1/4. Very good match. This was followed by the UE, which Cole Fletcher and Mark Davis and TJP versus Alex Zayner and Big Fan on and FTR, who are just FTR, the greatest tag team going at the moment. There was a few back chops. It was quite an even affair. Strong strikes from both teams. Dax had a hot tag and he was Germaning everyone, which was cool. Zayn picked up nearly with win with a near fall, and then Aussie Open took control and picked up the win with the fidget spinner. I rated that 3 1/4 stars. What was cool after this, that Aussie Open called out FTR to fight them in Japan for the New Japan Tag Team titles. Looking forward to that a lot. That will be great. This was followed by the co-main event, which I think it's I would class it as a co-main event when you have the time splitters fighting each other. Alex Shelley versus Kushida. Both guys were like doing a technical mind game kind of thing. They had the stroke battle. Both were trying to lock in submissions, which were really smooth. Shelley was working on the side, like the one side of Kushida, because of his move, his submission move. Both using each other's finishes, which were pretty fun to see. They did like a super atomic drop off the top rope. Border City Stretch, that's his finish. He got in on Kushida, and then Kushida got the hoverboard lock on Alex Shelley, but it ended up being a time limit draw. Right, that 3 3/4. Very, very good contest. A lot very fun to watch, and it's what you'd expect from both guys. Kushida's back, which is great, and Alex Shelley is just Alex Shelley. He's always going to be a great match. And then finally, we had Moxley versus Desperado. So the difference in size was telling in this because Moxley is the bigger man. Moxley was going after the Desperado mask. He kept trying to rip it over. Desperado did the Masada special on Moxley with the skewers. Then he was ripping the mask a bit more. Got blasted with a guitar. Moxley pulled out the barbed wire. They had barbed wire boards on both sides. Moxley went through one first, then Desperado went through the other. Desperado then went through a table, and then Moxley put him through like a can board, which was looking grim, and then he got fully choked out. Right, that 3 3/4. That was probably my match of the night, but it was on par with the Shelley match, I believe. And it was a very good event. In all honesty, like I really enjoyed it from top to bottom. Like Rossiat and Damo give a bit of stick, but it was still a good match. It was just not as good as the other matches, as you can see from the ratings on it. And then to round off the rate reviews, we've got the G1 Climax, the 30-second version of the G1 Climax. This was day 12, and this was my first day of watching the Climax, as explained at the start of the video. It's kind of hard watching the Climax and then trying to watch other matches, because we have to watch Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite for the shows, and I do want to watch other matches like Insane and the Flair match. I still need to watch it, and then it's just, they'll be completely written off if I watch the whole of the G1 Climax. So your first matchup, Bullet Club, Chase Owens, Evil Show, and Yujiro Takahashi. They defeated Dave Finlay, Rohai Oiwa, Tama Tonga, and Tomohiro Ishii. So Bullet Control were healing it up for a lot of this match until Ishii came in and was like a wrecking crew taking out everyone. Oiwa was basically the main component of this match. It was kind of like he's getting there as the young boy, but he's still not there. He was battering Show and got him in the Boston, which he thought he may pick up the win. And then Show ended up picking up the armbar on Oiwa and just tapping him out. Rated 2.5. It was your typical New Japan start match. This was followed by United Empire's Aaron Hanare and Jeff Cobb versus Team Filthy's Royce Isaacs and Tom Lawler. This started with Tom Lawler getting absolutely blasted for a good 5 minutes. Royce got the hot tag in. He was clubbing both men in the corner. Then a spot outside that Tom Lawler guillotined Cobb outside and was choking him out. But this didn't end well because Harare was ended up getting on top of Royce Isaacs and he hit the Streets of Rage. Rated that 2 3/4. It was fine. Good match. Bullet Club versus Los Ingobernables de Japón. So you had Baggett, Gluck Farley, Juice Robinson, and Kenta versus Bushi, Sanada, and Tetsuya Naito. This had a fun comedy element at the start. But it was quite a blink and you'll miss it match. So at the start, Naito got Kenta to sign Kenta's new book. He was really excited going like this, and then as soon as he passed in the book, he did the throw the book in the air thing, which he used to do with the belt. So then Kenta kind of blasted him from there. There was a few matches. I can't remember much of this, and I've written notes. Um, there's a headbutt Lobo spot, which was fun, and the Juice Robinsons picked up the win with a Pulp Friction. Only went 7 minutes. I rated it 2 3/4. There was a good few moves in it, but it just wasn't that great, I'll be honest. We had the Golden Aces up next against TMDK, the team of Bad Dude Tito and Yona, whoever. Bad Dude Tito looked good in this match. I don't know if they were trying to build him something, but he did look very good. Tanahashi, sorry, picked up the win with the Sling Blade and the High Five Flow. Right at 2.5. This was the pretty much the blink and you miss it match. Sorry, I can't explain the other one was, but it just happened. Then we're into the actual G1 matches. So we had Yoshihashi versus El Fantasma. So El Fantasma was healing it up at the start of the match, but then kind of decided against it. He did a few big dives on Yoshihashi. It was kind of like a Phantasmo-like showcase at this point. Then he was cut off, so Yoshihashi hit like a drop kick into the knee, and Phantasmo did like the RVD DDT spot where he just landed full on his head. Yoshihashi hit a dive at this point. They both had their strike battles. A super kick that blasted his head off. El Fantasmo tried to pick up the win with the Thunder Kiss from the top rope for a near fall. The Kumagoroshi from Yoshihashi, he got a near fall, and I believe it was Karma that picked up the win with his finish right at the 3 1/4. A good start to the G1 for myself. Lance Archer versus Yano was up next. Your typical comedy match. Lance Archer kept making Yano run away, and he's asking why you're running. Both guys exposed all 4 corners of the ring at the end. There was 2 at one time, then the next 2. Archer got like his own back on Yano and taped his arm up on the guardrail. Yano just about got in the ring. Archer did a dive, which Yano threw the young boy in the way, and then he threw the young boy over the barricade, pulled his arm through the guardrail, and then tied both their arms together. Archer somehow grabbed him through the guardrail, pulled him through, and then they did like a dual tag spot on accident with the clothesline. Yano kept trying to beat Archer with like low blows at this point, and then out of nowhere, Archer just picked up the win with a blackout. Rated 2 3/4. It was enjoyable. Zack Sabre Jr. up next versus Goto. So this was always going to be a good match. It was like your brute technical match. So your brute strength from Goto versus technical. Zack was in control at this point, but then they kind of went back and forth on strikes. He basically was trying to lure him into a submission for most of the match. He tried the European clutch, which should be always the finish. I'm sad that isn't the finish anymore. And then he got him into an armbar. And at the end, he picked up the win with like a really crippling. It looked like the Becky Lynch disarmer, but like full on ripping the guy's arm back. Rated 3.5. Like very good technical match for them both. The semi kind of main event at this point was Jay White and Greto Khan. So this was very good. They were trying to out wrestle each other. Greto Khan was quite a full in control. He was proper outworking him. Then he was working on the legs. It kind of got like your back and forth desperation at this point. Jay White tried to smite Greto Khan with it was like an Indian death-like kind of maneuver. Great Khan broke it up by biting the bottom rope. He nearly won the match with the sheep killer submission, and then he had it in the claw, and then he ended up with he hit the Blade Runner while still in the claw. He had to remove the claw from his face before he could pick up the win because Khan was out. We had that 3 3/4. Awesome matchup, but it was never going to be as good as the main event, which we all know was going to be a great match. Takagi versus Ospreay. Ospreay was full control for a lot of this matchup. I keep moving. I do apologize. I'm getting fidgety. Takagi then was like on his fire offense. Ospreay was doing Kawada kicks, but Takagi was going bring on some more. They had a cool speed sequence where they were doing the flips and flipping out of power bombs and stuff, which Ospreay kind of leveled Takagi to stop this. Ospreay had a few near falls. Shingo was then working on the arm. Shingo hit like an Ospreay cutter, and then Ospreay hit the Made in England, which is obviously the Made in Japan move. Shingo hit a Poison Rana and Ospreay, which he followed up with a Hidden Blade, so they were both going out at this point. There was a few desperation moves at this point, but then out of nowhere, Takagi picked up the win with the Last Dragon 2. I rated that 4.5. Very good ending to the G1 of this variation of the G1 night, day 12. So that's the end of the rate review. Let us know what you thought of each show. Comment down below what you thought of everything. It's nice to get a few comments. Like and subscribe to the channel. It does help a lot. As I said, comment down below what you think I should watch next. I'm moving soon, so I might not be able to pick it up straight away, but we'll try and get that in advance. And honestly, thank you for all the support you've been giving us, and you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bonjour.